Okay, now we come to the P of happiness. How to describe happiness. Like last week, before I start describing happiness, I'm going to actually give you some synonyms for happiness. There are actually a lot of words that can mean happiness, but I'm not going to go through all of them. The reason being that it's like I want to actually keep the session short so that your thoughts don't wander. So not only for the synonyms, for each component, right? I will not list all that is found on the list. You actually have to download the list and actually look through them yourselves. Okay, but what I will do is I will just go through some of the items, some of the more pertinent ones. But when you go through the list, and if you should find any words or any phrases that you're not sure of, you can actually always leave a comment below or drop me an email, and I'll try and clarify any question that you have. Okay, then let's start the lesson proper. If you remember, last week we did the P of sadness, and many synonyms for sadness actually begin with the letter D, like dolefulness, dejection, depression, etc., etc. Likewise, for the P of happiness, right, for happiness, many of its synonyms actually begin with the letter E or the letter J. Let's see the list that begin with the letter E. Well, those that begin with the letter E, you have words like exuberance, elation, exhilaration, enjoyment, and ecstasy. Now take note that the last one, ecstasy, is very strong. Okay, it's one of the strongest form of happiness. And the other alphabet, okay, that we have as the starting letter for many words that mean happiness is J. So you have words like joy, joyfulness, jubilation, also joviality, jollity, okay, sorry, I forgot one for the letter E, and that is euphoria. So there you have many words beginning with letter E and J that mean happiness. Others will be words like delight, bliss, pleasure, contentment, satisfaction, glee, gaiety, also cheerfulness and rapture. But as I said earlier on, I will not list everything down here. The reason is to keep the lesson short, so as so that you can focus more on it. For more, you can actually refer to the list that will be provided in the resources in the blog. Okay, so then now we move on to the physical reaction for happiness. How can you tell from a person's body language that he is happy? Okay, most of the time when a person is happy, you can actually see it from his smile, right? From his expression. So then we will have words like, or phrases like his face creased into a white green. or his face broke into a broad smile. You could also say his face was radiant with joy, or that he smiled from year to year. Okay? Another way of seeing a person's happiness is from the eyes. It's always believed that a happy person has got brighter eyes. So you could see, for example, that his eyes twinkled with pleasure. Or that his eyes shone with delight. Next, we will actually move on to describing the emotion. How do we describe happiness? Okay, so we have got one that's like the very long sentence we actually used in the compo earlier on. Okay, the one about the 10 rules of unhappiness. So you can say, for example, that his body was suffused with joy, warming him up, chasing away the tendrils of unhappiness. That had curled around him. Okay, you could also describe it like happiness as a blanket. So you could say, for example, a gentle bliss spread from his heart to his limbs, wrapping him or enveloping him securely. This spelling looks wrong. Huh? Let's do it. Okay, so it should be this way. Securely, like a warm, fluffy blanket. You know how people normally like feel very good when they lay in bed and there's a storm outside and they are like snugly covered by their quilt or their blanket. So this feeling is akin to that. Okay, there are also many, what's the word? Let me think. Proverbs or like figures of speech. There are many figures of speech to describe happiness, and they are mostly found in the heavens. I suppose it's because happiness is normally a very light feeling. When people feel happy, they feel very light-hearted. It's like, they can fly to the sky. So that's why a lot of happiness figures of speech actually refer to like the people being high up in the heavens when they're happy. Like, for example, to be in seventh heaven, or to be on cloud 9. As well as to be over the moon. All these describe happiness. And there are also some similes that can be used to describe happiness. The common one would be as happy as a lark, If you want to be a bit cheeky, and if your story has a comic tone to it, you can use like, to be as happy as a pig in the mud. You can actually use this one, to be as happy as a mosquito at a blood bank. Okay, lastly, what do people do when they're happy? Okay, some people clap their hands. Others would hug the person or the people who make them happy. So for example, maybe in the story, you could have Jack hugging his parents in gratitude. And as I said last week, when people are sad, most of the time we will see them crying, but crying can also be an action of joy. So in this case, perhaps Jack's eyes grew moist. I think in the story we did mention that. Okay. Some more expressive one, very active one, they could jump for joy. Or they could shout in happiness, so you can say he whooped in glee. And these days, a very common action is to pump your fist. Okay, a common story is actually whereby we have the child helping someone, the main character helping someone, and after that when he walks home, he's happy because he has done a good deed. So then you can say that he walked home with a spring in his step. So there. As I said, what I've done here is not exhaustive of the list. So do download the list and then go through them. Okay, then that's all for this week. We'll see you next week. By the way, we have covered 4 main emotions already: fear, happiness, anger, and sadness. Next week, right, we will not focus on emotions anymore. We'll probably do things like techniques or like devices that you can use to make your stories more interesting. Okay, until next week then.